In my recent video on what Breaking Bad taught me about anime analysis and why the reason schools in anime all look the same, a sentence I'm pretty sure no one in the history of humanity has ever uttered before, I briefly mentioned the school roof trope. It's a very ingrained convention in a lot of Japanese media set in high school. The backdrop for a dramatic confrontation, a love confession, planning and discussion of how to stop the new secret threat facing Tokyo, or just as a place for general hanging out. I also briefly mentioned that in modern-day Japan, students are generally not allowed up on the roof unsupervised. The door is usually locked, and something is placed in front of the entrance stairwell to kind of deter people from even trying to go up. I said that a large factor as to why this trope is so commonplace would be the ease of shot composition and having somewhere convenient and isolated for some drama to take place. And I left it as that because I didn't want that part of the video become too humorous, as I am often known or want to do. The truth in history is a little more complicated than that, so I'd like to explore that a little bit in this video here. If you haven't seen my original video, I highly recommend watching it first, but you can do whatever you want. You have free will, supposedly. Now, there isn't really that much information about it available in English online, and I suspect that's because, one, it's not really that important, like no one's writing a whole scholarly article about this, you know, and two, because most of the time it tends to come up in discussion of the anime and manga trope. And so that means that the majority of the information comes from direct anecdotal experiences of younger Japanese people. Now, this is valuable in helping just distinguish between reality and fiction, something a lot of people around these parts don't really seem to know how to do. And it also helps paint a better picture of modern Japan. But it doesn't tell the full story, because if you were to ask someone older, then going up on the roof might have had some basis in reality. A document on a teacher's training site for Ishikawa Prefecture mentions that Hokuyo Elementary School used to allow 4th grade and above students to go up on the roof at leisure. Photos of schools in Shinagawa exist of students playing volleyball on the roof. There are song lyrics from Golden Oldies that make reference on going up on the roof. And a lot of anecdotal forum posts from older Japanese have fond memories of going up. In space-starved Japan, it seemed like it actually used to be a fond escape for students to get away from everything during school hours and get some fresh air. So then what changed? First was the rise in delinquency and school violence, both in terms of violence against people and destruction of property. And the secluded nature of the roof made it difficult to catch or prevent would-be troublemakers. Another, possibly larger factor was the increase in the number of suicides in the late 70s and early 80s, of which jumping off the roof was a popular method. In particular was the Takashima Daira housing complex, an enormous housing complex in Tokyo, infamous for increasing from 3 suicides between 1972 and 1976 to 133 between 1977 and 1980. The site was so famous as a method of killing yourself that it's estimated that only 17% of people who actually died lived in the complex. The rest traveled from quite far away in order to do so. Combine this with the height of the average Japanese building increasing since the 1960s, especially in urban areas, the overall number of non-suicidal accidents occurring from falling or getting damaged or hurting yourself off of a roof, and general increase in worldwide concern for the safety of children, led to the policy of all accessible roofs requiring a minimum 1.1 meter fence being installed. Many deeming that not even enough and going as high as 3 meters, with the top part of it slanting inward to prevent anyone climbing over. Combine that with the average roof containing a lot of complex ventilation systems, solar panel, energy boxes, etc. You've got a whole lot of room for hurt and accident to occur. So many schools simply decided it was much easier to turn the lock and never look back. This seems true of a lot of office and residential buildings as well on a more case-by-case basis. But the school seems pretty near universal. The interesting thing is, you can kind of see some of these causes reflected in the nature of anime school roof scenes in the anime of the time, and even some to this day. The issue of suicide by jumping remains a common motif, whether as a direct part of the drama, an expansion of a character's trauma and backstory, or just embedded as symbols and imagery and general kind of motifs. So does its status as a truant spot for delinquents. It's notable how in the first episode of Yu Yu Hakusho, in a sequence meant to showcase all the ways of how much of a deity this little rascal Yusuke is, his very first on-screen offense is him being found up on the roof. A lot of common Japanese media tropes have been sort of fossilized to a particular time period, well beyond the time that they actually stopped reflecting reality. A prominent example is, well, the stereotypical look of the Japanese delinquent. You think of a baggy gakuran worn open to reveal a tight t-shirt underneath, the classic pompadour purr or brightly colored hair, which existed at the time and was a common look, almost to a very strict degree. If you were part of one of these gangs, you kind of had to dress like this, but now only exist in fiction. It's such a cliche that Part 4 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure constantly has characters call out how the main character's way of dress is super outdated and old-fashioned way back in 1992. Yet the look still gets used in media almost 3 decades later. It's particularly common in anime, where the outlandish look of the way that it's dressed doesn't really stand out as much because, well, everyone else is already looking pretty outlandish. I suspect a similar situation has kind of led to the fossilization of the roof trope. Some of the creators of the 70s, 80s, and even 90s could have legitimately remembered going up on the roof, or they remember the stories of what the delinquents used to do when they got caught up there, or they heard that rumor of that one girl who committed suicide, and used it as fuel for their material. Over time, later artists who have no personal memories of the roof draw inspiration from those earlier works simply due to the appeal of the drama. I think we can dig a little deeper though, as I believe that on top of all the stuff about history and media lineage and everything like that there just exists a certain allure to the roof in Japanese culture. Think about it. If the sole purpose is just to have a private and isolated area that's visually interesting, to have some drama, we still have many options. Empty classroom, a corridor, the schoolyard, the back of the shed, the stairwell, the closet. These type of scenes occur pretty frequently, of course, but often they aren't as punchy or memorable as those set on the roof. Maybe on the one hand, it's that in those other places, the empty classroom, the corridor, someone could come along at any time and ruin that moment of privateness. It adds a bit of tension to there. Or maybe it's as cultural critic Miyadai Shinji puts it, because up on the roof, you can be a nobody. On a TBS radio show in 2010, he discussed places like parks and roofs as being spaces that are just that. Space. Pauses. Places to legitimately do nothing. As he puts it, classrooms are for students, corridors are for people walking, and schoolyards are for sports players. Basically, you have to be someone who does something in order to be there. And that is why the roof is important. The reason why it's a meaningful place to stay is because the rooftop is a gap, a pause, a place for spare moments, and people who do nothing. Miyadai laments, though, that this was all in the past, due to the phenomenon of neighbor lawsuits, and the installation of safety standards and protocols have stripped places like parks and roofs of this freedom. Now, there is a bit of boomerism in his comments, like the sense of like,
oh, your kid got sucked into an irrigation canal and fucking died, it was his fault, you fucking idiot, you don't need to put a fence there, it was his fault, you know you're not supposed to be there.
But the point does remain that this space, to some a vital area, a way to escape from the confines and the pressures of always needing a reason to be in a place, was taken away. Perhaps this explains the ubiquity of the school rooftop in genres like nichijouke and ayashike. Rather than being used as a convenient backdrop to the escapist drama of a shonen or a mystery show, the space itself is the escape. A creator or viewer might remember their own schooling and imagine what it must have been like, how freeing it must have been up there. The forbidden nature of the roof having a certain allure, away from academic, athletic, or social pressures. Watching these shows could emulate that imagined feeling of calm and ease, with comforting and supporting characters that you love, sitting and joking and just generally having a good time in a place that you feel you should be able to go to, but can't. Somewhere you could just be a nobody. So then what about modern day life then? Is the roof completely off limits, completely confined to the constraints of fiction? Well, it depends. Some modern, really expensive schools have a rooftop garden. This is usually on a second building that's lower than the main one, and this is designed to be a place that people can go, relax, eat, and just hang out. It seems that supervised visits aren't that uncommon either. Here is a blog post from Shiroyama Elementary School about the 3rd grade class that went up with their students to have class on the roof. And that same document from the Ishikawa thing I mentioned earlier says that 3rd graders generally go up on the roof sometimes to do social studies class. I've also found a few anecdotal stories that certain club activities are allowed, as due to space issues, sometimes the school garden, sporting courts, or even the pool are built onto the roof. The roof also ultimately still plays a large role as an evacuation area in the event of a tsunami, earthquake, or any other kind of disaster. But it seems that the classic image of the roof, the one frequented by protagonists for lunch, the arena for dramatic confrontations, where the ultimate heartbreaking love confession takes place, or the planning and strategic area where you discuss how to defeat the latest underground fantastical threat that faces Tokyo, remains nothing but a mix of fiction and hazy memory. As a wise man once said, you can come on the roof, but you can't roof on the car.